Two numbers, stacked at the start of every piece of music. Most people stare at them, count to 4, and move on without ever knowing what those numbers actually say. But those two numbers are doing completely different jobs, and once you know what each one is asking, every time signature you will ever meet opens up immediately. The top one answers a question about time. The bottom one answers a question about shape. They are not related to each other the way the top and bottom of a fraction are related. They are independent answers to independent questions. Get both of those clear and nothing in written rhythm will stop you. The top number tells you one thing and one thing only: how many beats fit inside one bar. That is its entire job. For at the top means 4 beats, then a bar line, then 4 beats again. 3 at the top means 3 beats, then a bar line, then 3 more. 2 at the top means 2 beats before the count resets. The number can be almost anything, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 7, but the idea is always the same. Count to that number and the bar is full. When you reach the bar line, go back to 1. A bar line is not decoration and it is not a breath mark. It is a wall drawn across the staff that means exactly one thing: the count resets on the other side. Some musicians call the first beat of each bar the downbeat. That is the beat that follows every bar line, and in almost every meter it carries more weight than the beats around it. Here is what the grouping actually sounds like, because hearing it is faster than describing it. For 4 for evenly spaced clicks per bar, with the first one slightly heavier than the others. Count along: 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 1 bar. Listen for where the accent falls, the slightly louder first click. Now 3, 4 are 3 clicks, the first one heavy, then 2 lighter ones. 1, 2, 3. 1 bar. Count it again: 1, 2, 3. You can already feel the difference between them. For 4 sits level, for equal spans of time with a mild accent at the start. 3 for leans forward, the heavy first beat pulling toward the next bar line. That lean is what makes a waltz feel like a waltz and not a march. The number of beats changes the character of the whole piece. A song that lives in 3/4 has a different center of gravity than the same melody rewritten in 4/4. The bottom number answers a completely different question: which note shape gets counted as 1 beat? Read that again carefully. It is not the bottom of a fraction and you do not divide anything. It is a code for a duration, a lookup value. The number 4 at the bottom means a quarter note is 1 beat. The number 2 means a half note is 1 beat. The number 8 means an eighth note is 1 beat. The number 1, which you will rarely see, means a whole note is 1 beat. Those are the only 4 values that come up in common practice music. 4, 2, 8, or 1. You look up the bottom number in that short list and read off the note shape. The quarter note at the bottom is so common it almost disappears from notice. The vast majority of what a beginner reads first has a quarter note as the beat, which means the bottom number will usually be 4. But the system exists because sometimes a half note is a better unit of pulse, and the number 2 lets you say so precisely. Put the 2 numbers together and you can read any simple time signature without hesitation. For 4 means for quarter note beats per bar, the top says 4, the bottom says quarter note. 3/4 means 3 quarter note beats per bar. 2/4 means 2 quarter note beats per bar. 6/8 means 6 eighth note beats per bar. The top always tells you how many. The bottom always tells you which shape. Nothing else is hidden in those 2 digits. There is no ratio, no division, no fraction to compute. 2 pieces of information, stacked for convenience, read separately. Once you can look at any time signature and split it into those 2 questions, the whole system is in your hands. For 4 in action. For quarter note beats fill each bar. The accent pattern is what gives for its character. Beat 1 is the heaviest, beat 2 is light, beat 3 carries a secondary accent about half as strong as beat 1, and beat 4 is light again. That means the bar has two strong moments, 1 and 3, with two light pulses in between. Pop music, rock, folk, hymns, most classical works, 4/4 is the default meter of written music because for evenly weighted quarter notes sit comfortably in a natural breathing cycle. Count along with the pulse, 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel beat 1 land as the bar resets. Then feel the lighter lift on beat 2, the secondary weight on beat 3, and the anticipation before beat 1 returns. The keyboard plays 1 note per beat so you can hear each pulse arrive, and the metronome click underneath lets you feel where each beat falls. That click on beat 1 is louder than the others. 3/4 is its own meter, not a shorten for 4. 3 quarter note beats per bar, and the accent structure is different from 4/4 in a fundamental way. There is only one strong beat in the bar, beat 1. Beats 2 and 3 are both light, both subordinate. That means after the accent lands on 1, the bar simply drifts through 2 lighter pulses before the next accent arrives. That drift is what creates the waltz sensation. The bar feels rounded, like a gentle rocking, because there is 1 weight and 2 lifts rather than 2 weights and 2 lifts. Count along, 1, 2, 3. 1 carries the weight. 2 and 3 carry the lift. Listen for how the accent on beat 1 pulls the music forward into the next downbeat. Accent beat 1 and let beats 2 and 3 stay quiet, and the waltz character arrives on its own. That is also why composers choose 3/4 for tender, introspective moments. The single accent makes the bar feel like 1 gesture rather than 2. 2/2, sometimes called cut time or à la brève. The notation is 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, 2 half-note beats per bar. A half note is twice as long as a quarter note, so each beat in 2/2 is twice as wide as a beat in 2/4. The result is 2 broad pulses per bar instead of 4 narrow ones. At first glance it can look like 4/4 on the page, because the notes inside the bar are the same. But the pulse feels completely different because the unit of 1 beat is twice as large. Conductors typically beat 2/2 with 2 arm movements per bar rather than 4, and performers feel the music in halves rather than quarters. Cut time turns up in fast marches and in many classical overtures, where moving in half notes at a brisk tempo would bog down if counted in 4. Count the half notes along with the pulse, 1, 2. Notice how wide those beats are. The music can still move at a considerable speed, but the feeling of momentum is different because the accent hits only once per bar instead of twice. 6/8, 6/8 note beats per bar. That sounds straightforward, but 6/8 has a secret that makes it behave quite differently from any simple meter. 6/8 notes do not feel like 6 equal pulses. They cluster into 2 groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The accent falls on beat 1 and again, more lightly, on beat 4. So the ear hears 2 large beats, each one internally subdivided into 3 smaller eighth notes. That is why conductors beat 6/8 in 2 rather than 6. The real pulse is the dotted quarter note, which spans 3 eighth notes, and there are 2 of those per bar. That is different in kind from 3/4, where 3 quarter notes give you 3 beats each divided into 2 eighth notes. The distinction is between simple meter, where each beat divides into 2, and compound meter, where each beat divides into 3. 6/8 is compound. 3/4 is simple. They can feel similar at a very slow tempo where you count every eighth note. Speed up and they pull apart completely, because 6/8 begins to flow in 2 while 3/4 continues to walk in 3. 2 confusions come up every time someone studies this material, so it is worth clearing both of them up directly. First, is 6/8 the same as 3/4? They both involve the number 3, which is why they seem related. But they are not the same. In 6/8 the main pulse is the dotted quarter note, which is 2 eighth notes long. In 3/4 the main pulse is the plain quarter note, which is also 2 eighth notes long, except that in 3/4 each of those quarter notes is a beat, while in 6/8 3 eighth notes group together to form 1 beat. at the same metronome marking 6/8 flows in 2 and 3/4 walks in 3. They are not interchangeable, and composers choose between them deliberately. Second, why does 2/2 feel faster than 4/4 when the tempo is the same? The tempo is identical. What changes is where the strong beats fall. 4/4 has 2 strong beats per bar, beats 1 and 3. 2/2 has 1 strong beat per bar, beat 1. Fewer accents means wider gaps between them, and the ear reads wide gaps as momentum. The music moves across more time between each accent, which the listener experiences as forward drive. Reading a time signature at sight comes down to 2 steps. Step 1. Look at the top number. That is how many beats fill each bar. Step 2. Look at the bottom number. That tells you which note shape is 1 beat. Then count. For 4, count for quarter notes per bar, accent on 1. 3/4, count 3/4 notes per bar, accent on 1. 2/2, count 2 half notes per bar, accent on 1. 6/8, count in 2, each beat a dotted quarter note built from 3/8 notes, accent on 1. Once you can read those 2 numbers separately as 2 independent answers, no time signature is a mystery. 5/4 is 5/4 notes per bar. 7/8 is 7/8 notes per bar. 11/8 is 11/8 notes that will cluster into groups, usually 5 and 6 or 4 and 7. The top tells you how many and the bottom tells you which shape, and that rule holds for every meter you will ever see. The next layer is the full story of the difference between simple and compound meter, why beats divide into 2 in some meters and 3 in others, and what that means for the music's feel at speed. That is where 6/8 leads, and that territory gets its own episode.